Everybody has things they got to deal with. Who cares about your fucking excuses? If you want to win, make those your excuses to win. Like, I could have easily been like, yo, that DJ's hating on me, and just ran around town talking shit about that DJ because he didn't play my records. I probably wouldn't fucking be here today.
Jordan, what's happening, man?
I'm good. What's up, Sam? How you doing?
Fantastic, man. Super excited. We have a very special guest today. If you're not already familiar, get familiar with Mr. Clinton Sparks. Clinton is he's a multifaceted music entrepreneur. He's helped sell 75 million plus records. He's Grammy-nominated as a producer. He's a DJ. He's a marketing executive. I really enjoyed this episode because not only do we talk about how he was able to rise up as an actual kind of musician in the music industry and as a kind of a radio host and personality and DJ and tap into all these different realms on the kind of music production side, but also really love too, this man is a true to form entrepreneur, tapping into other realms beyond just the traditional music business and finding very unique ways to help leverage the cultural influence that music has to grow big businesses. I think he's currently doing a fair amount in the esports space. He has his own brand that he's building, XSET, which is a gaming and lifestyle brand at the intersection of esports and hip hop. He also helped build Faze Clan, which if you're not familiar, definitely dive in, but they're one of the top esports brands in what's honestly like one of the fastest growing industries in the world right now, the behemoth that is esports. So I think he has tons of very, very potent perspectives that have helped him rise not only in the music business, but really become this kind of cross-industry entrepreneur. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, man. I think one thing that I really like about this episode is just his energy. He had a really good energy to him, fairly intense, but not aggressive. You know what I mean? So the energy that you want to, you want to be in the same room with him. So definitely appreciate him for coming out. A couple of things that we talked about. We talked about what taking no for an answer actually looks like, which I think is super, super valuable. I think in the music industry, taking no for an answer is said a lot, but we don't actually know what that means. And there's a difference between taking no for an answer or not taking no for an answer. Not taking no for an answer and being a nuisance. And we get into that through a couple of his stories. We have some key lessons in networking. One of the biggest ones that I try to tell people outside of the podcast, on the podcast, whenever they come to me with things, whether that's problems or how to kind of excel in the industry, is everything is a value exchange. And we talk about that super in depth and what that looks like. Finally, we get to talk about his book, How to Win Big in the Music Business. It's available at winbiginmusic.com. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about today overlaps with the information that people will learn in that book. So with the podcast, with How to Win Big in the Music Business at winbiginmusic.com, people will have no short of information in order to figure out how to find their way in the music industry. And super glad that we got him on.
Yeah, well, without any further ado, get familiar with Mr. Clinton Sparks. Clinton, what's happening, man? Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for your concern on my well-being. How about yourself?
That's fantastic, man. Thank you as well. With that said, man, I wanted to just kind of, you've accomplished a lot in a lot of different kind of realms within the music industry, even beyond the music industry. So I think we'd love to really just kind of go back to the beginning of the story and just hear from your words what you felt like your first big break was, when you really felt personally like you had kind of like made a big step into the industry.
Well, before I answer that question, I would just like to acknowledge Hype Williams' brother, Jordan, who's got the setup for his new music video with the all-white background and the white attire. So my first big break, man, that's one of the questions I get asked a lot, and I don't really have like one thing that I consider like this was the thing that kind of made me feel like I made it or I'm doing it, because it's just been a series of, I wouldn't even be able to name how many things that I've done that have added to the results of my success. There's just way too many things, too many sleepless nights, too much sacrifice, too many deals, too many letdowns, too many wins, too many failures, too many mixtapes, too many records, too many, studio sessions. But I would say the first thing that got me on the legitimate path of that I at least considered myself legitimate was when I got on the radio for the first time. I had my own radio show. So that was when I was like, okay, because I already had a plan. When I started out, I had a plan from day one. Like I was already treating myself as a brand in 2000. I already had my brand's catchphrase, get familiar. Like I already had,
Get familiar.
I already had, I already knew what I wanted to do, where I was going to go and how to get there. And radio was part of my plan. So when I finally got myself onto radio, I was like, all right, I'm on the path to where I need to go to win big. So I guess I would say securing my own radio show would be my first step to the success that I have achieved and still continue to achieve.
Securing the radio show on the way to securing the bag, as they say.
I mean, I was podcasting in early 2000s before before it was even called podcasting. You know what I mean? So, or at least popularly called podcasting. Maybe somebody called it podcasting, but I certainly wasn't like, hey man, I want a podcast. You know what I mean? I just knew that like Apple had a place, and I was like, why wouldn't I put my shows on Apple for people to hear it? That makes no sense. So I was doing that early on.
Right. That kind of goes to what Sam usually says in our episodes too, which is finding where there's underpriced attention, where people aren't necessarily there yet, and where kind of getting on this technology early and being at the forefront of those changes kind of allows you to see around the corner of innovation and use that to move forward in your career. That's been my
gift and my curse, has been that concept exactly, being able to see what's coming next and forecast trends. Whether it was like me seeing early the EDM wave and then, putting it together with hip hop, or understanding how to get hip hop into Hollywood, and then how to bring it to Las Vegas,
right.
Or even how to intersect it now. Most recently, over the past several years, I've been one of the leaders in intersecting music and gaming. So, there's a lot of things that I've always, I'll say the biggest obstacle I've had throughout my career is convincing people of what's next and what they need to pay attention to.
Right.
Because, a lot of people, they like familiarity, especially the music business. The music business is always behind. I mean, that's how I broke in to the music business, is because in 1999, I realized that, and the reason I knew what I'm about to say is because the radio DJ on the big radio station where I lived, I used to hang out with him at the radio station. So I understood the mentality and the psychology of radio and record labels and what they need a radio for and how radio pimps them out sometimes. So I was really understanding the dynamics of the music business by hanging out with him. And the reason I even hung out with that guy, the reason why I'm telling you this stuff, for people that listen, I want people to understand different ways of entry points and some of the sacrifices you need to make. That's why sometimes I'll go off on a tangent, because I want people to get the lessons and the value out of the story, right? So even how when I got on radio or was hanging out at the radio, how I even made that happen is I made myself a value prop to that DJ. I would produce like intros for him. I would get, like, when rappers come locally, I would go get drops for him. Like I would do stuff to make him say, this dude's dope. He's like looking out for me and making all these things happen. Why would I not want him to be around? You know what I mean? So my reward was being able to be around and absorb and listen to how things operate and understand personalities within the music business. So when that happened, I hung out and I realized that the music industry didn't understand the internet. So I lied and said that I had a super cracking internet radio show to record executives that I befriended because of my buddy who was on the radio. So when we would all go to lunch and stuff, I'd meet these record executives and we'd stay in contact. Like, hey man, I got the most cracking online radio show out of Boston. When you bring your artists to Boston to do promo runs, it would be a disservice to you and your artists if you didn't bring them to me. I'm the new wave. And like, they were like, all right. So then I ended up being put on the promo list whenever they would bring artists to do promo runs through the Northeast region. And literally it was in my mom's basement. So I had Cameron, Eminem, Talib Kweli, Wu-Tang, like everybody came to my Common. Everybody would be at my mom's house doing freestyles and interviews. And like, that's how I maintain relationships with all of those people today from when we met then.
Right. And some of that's what, Sam and I did when we started the podcast, right? Before we had super credibility. One thing that we did have was the URL musicbusinesspodcast.com. So we were reaching out to people. We were like, this is the number one go-to podcast for your music industry insight. Before that insight even existed. So, Well, now I'm doing the same thing without the lie. Now I'm doing, and I don't mean to jump from 20 years ago to 20 years now, but I'm doing the same thing with Twitch. Like
because I'm in gaming, I understand how popular it is. It's got over 140 million users. I understand, you know, the psychology and the culture and the landscape of gamers and how they listen to hip hop and how hip hop all game. And they've always been gamers. There's always, you know, gaming consoles and recording studios and tour buses and barbershops. And it was like, man, like, how does everybody not see like how clearly this relationship should be much more committed? So I got on Twitch, and I just reached this week. I started my show on Twitch 9 weeks ago, and I got over 2.2 million in audience now. So, you know, I'm doing a really big production deal with Twitch. I told them, I said, look, I'm here to be the Ryan Seacrest of Twitch. That's what I told them. I said, I'm going to just produce shows, bring on more content, bring on more talent. I'm going to be the number one guy on here that's going to help you guys really, you know, uplift the entire company to be recognized for more than just streaming and gaming.
That's super exciting. Can you tell us a little more about like the vision for the show? Because I know that the programming landscape there is a bit competitive, and obviously, I mean, I think even just throughout your whole career, like, I mean, just being able to stand out in competitive environments is the key. So, what are you thinking?
Well, you know, I've been doing radio for almost 20 years. So even when I first started, I had to figure out a way to stand out. When I started radio, everybody wanted to be Funkmaster Flex. Right. And everybody wanted to drop bombs. Everybody wanted, you know what I mean? Da, da, da. All loud. And they wanted to be like, they wanted to be cooler. They wanted to be just as cool, if not cooler, than the artists that they were actually interviewing. Right. And I knew that. So I'm like, man, if I get on, like, I'm a white dude from Boston and at a time when like hip hop is black in New York, like predominantly, you know what I mean? And like, and it's like, they already hate Boston. You know what I'm saying? And like any white guy getting into hip hop is called Vanilla Ice or Eminem. So it was like, what can I do to stand out and be recognized, to be dope and different? So when I started, I already knew my talent was dope. Like DJing, I already knew if I got on the radio, I was already going to murder and people were going to be like, that dude's dope. But then I had to create like, what is my personality going to be? I can't just be like, you know, especially the rappers that don't know who I am. I'm just this white guy from Boston, right? So it's like, I had to figure out something that would put their guard down, would make them know I'm not trying to make a mockery of them or hip hop or their presence in the room.
Right.
So I had to like figure what that would be. And I thought to myself, and this is literally how I thought, I was like, man, no like regular like white kids in college or high school ever get to like ask rappers questions, right? Mm-hmm. But we all like hang out and say, man, what did Ghostface mean when he said this? Or, yo, that's crazy that so-and-so did it. And like, but it's so distant from, you know, like the white kid back then that it was like, I'm going to take on the persona of like a white kid that doesn't know better. Right. And I'm going to ask questions that make you feel like if I wasn't white, I wouldn't be able to ask them because they'd be like, man, what the fuck you asked me that shit for, right? But because like Funk Flex couldn't ask Jay-Z, hey bro, like when you're on a tour and like you're lonely and you're in a room doing nothing, like do you ever just watch adult feature films? You know what I mean? Like, but I could, you know what I mean? And like, and that's like, those are the funny things that, you know, when you're hanging out with your friends, you say stupid shit with each other, right? And like, nobody that's like at a level of credibility on radio who's already established could all of a sudden start asking dumbass questions like that. You know what I mean? So when I came on, my talent already certified me as being dope. Plus I was already killing it in the streets with my mixtapes. So when you came to see me on my radio shows or when I was on Shade 45 and stuff like that, like you already fucked with me, right? So then like, if you didn't know me personally, you know, you're obviously going to talk to me for a couple minutes before we go on the air. I'm going to already joke with you. So you know when I go on the air, like, oh, this is who he is, right? So like, and that's how I was able to build and stand out and excel on radio as a personality because I looked for, and the lesson in this is most people look at the best who's doing it so they can emulate them. Like, I want to be like Mike, right? So people like watch, oh, he's killing it. So I want to do exactly what he's doing so I can kill it like he's killing it. My mentality has always been like, okay, who's killing it? Let me look at them and see where they're fucking up, what they're not doing, and what lanes are open that they're missing out on, or whatever crumbs are falling off their table that I can pick up and snowball them. So that's kind of was my approach And it's still kind of my approach now, even as successful as I am, I still look at like, damn, how are they not seeing this? You know, and I'll grab that ball and run with something that somebody else is doing. So when people talk about competition, I don't ever really think about it because it doesn't exist, because I'm not chasing what somebody else is doing, and I'm not worried about someone trying to do what I'm doing because I know that I'm fucking dope. So if you're dope too, then dope. Let's be dope together. I'm not worried that I'm going to be less dope because you're dope. Let's be dope and do dope shit together.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think that that confidence in being able just to trust your own creative vision too is, I'm sure, been just a big underlying factor. Whereas a lot of people might sometimes not necessarily be able to go all in on what they personally believe in and let it get watered down by the beliefs of others. In that same vein, like when you think about the most important skills in succeeding in the business of music, both as a musician, marketer, executive, I mean, like what are some of these traits that you feel you've either both nurtured in yourself or seen in other people that you feel really have enabled like the level of success, not only in your career, but even just in collaborating with some of these other like titans in music, if you will?
What do I see in them, you're asking?
What are certain skills that you feel have played a significant role in your development and the success in your career, as well as some other skills you may have observed from some other people that have been movers and shakers in the industry as well?
Yeah. Or values, you know?
Not being a dick. So that's really kind of the nucleus, kind of in caring about other people as much as you care about yourself, right? So I've never approached anybody for a favor or a collaboration or anything in my career unless there was something I could bring of equal or greater value to them. Yeah, I think just, meaning what you say and saying what you mean, really, the age-old axiom of that, just being a man of your word. And like, somebody like a Pitbull, for instance, like, this is without obviously pointing out the hard work, right? Like that goes without saying, like being able to outwork other people. And the other thing that I stood by too was like not taking no for an answer. I even say it in my book, I was almost naive to the fact that I actually could potentially lose. Like I didn't even look at it like, oh, what if this doesn't work? Like I don't even have that mentality. It's like, this is what I plan to do. And I haven't ever set a goal in my entire life that I haven't achieved. And I think it's because of that mentality. But like I was going to say, people like Pitbull, one of the greatest guys ever, because like he like built relationships with all the DJs, all the radio people, everybody that matters, but he did it with authenticity. Like he actually cares and he like pays attention to you and he listens to you and he talks to you. And like, man, that's why that dude's worth as much as he's worth and why he's still successful. He's Mr. Worldwide because he was willing. He didn't think he was bigger or better than other people. He didn't think like, man, I ain't got time for that dude. Because guess what? He knew, just like another person, Little John, they knew that DJ right there may be an intern now, but he could be the program director 4 years from now at that radio station. And more often than not, that would happen. And now Pitbull and Little John and people like that will have relationships with the most important people in radio. So whenever they put out a record, it's just automatic going in rotation. That's my boy. You know what I'm saying? So it's really kind of just being a good human being, doing good business. It's why, 20 years later, I'm still, if I was stock from when I started, I was steadily going like this my entire career.
Right.
And I can still call people and they answer my call because I've always done good business and I've never asked for ridiculous shit and I've never did anything whack. And I would lose money before I would let my reputation get dented. It doesn't mean that much to me. What means more to me is, doing good business and people, when you say my name or people say my name, like, oh, that's my boy. You know what I mean? Oh, I fuck with that dude. You know what I mean? Like that currency holds more value to me than, $10,000, $20,000 check.
Right. And that's important also. You mentioned a couple things there. The first one being that you want to be respectful and nice to whoever you meet in the music industry because you never know where they'll be next. We get a lot of questions. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We get a lot of questions. Well, I think especially in the music industry, how entrepreneurial it is in terms of being an intern to an executive. That can happen like fairly quickly, I feel like. Or
everyone's always is the same. Everyone's one hit record away. Right. So somebody could be down and out for 2 years. They make one record, boom, they're on top again. Now you're like, oh, let me reach out to that dude. He knows you didn't reach out for 2 years.
Exactly. And people often ask us, how do they get into the room with these larger names, whether that be larger executives or larger artists? And I always ask first if they've networked with their peers, because their peers are going to be the ones that end up the larger names at some point.
Right.
One thing that I've gotten from my mentors is, they know the people that own labels now. They get their artists to work with them at this point, but they've known them for 7 or 8 years. What were those people doing 7 or 8 years ago? They were assistants. They were executive assistants. They were interns. They were people that, in the large scheme of things, didn't move the needle super a lot. And now 7 or 8 years later, everyone owns businesses and everyone knows each other. And it makes it, it makes it seem like, from the outside looking in, that maybe all these people somehow met, and obviously a lot do meet after they get to that point of inflection in their career. But it's really important to network with the people that are on the same level as you, under you, above you, because people just switch around like so often. Right. So I think that's just something that is really important, because people always ask me if they need to be in a certain place or city or things like that. And there is some truth to that, but there's also, a network, around you that you can explore as well.
Yeah. And I talk about that too. I feel like, you'll always see artists or producers or people say like, man, if I can only get to that dude. And it's like one of the dudes at the top of the food chain. Right. And it's like, bro, there's ways to work your way there. I'll give an example for a producer. Like, a producer may be in him tapping out beats and imagining, like we all do as producers, oh, this would be killer for, Lil Yachty. This would be killer if the Migos did it. This would be killer. And you hold on to it, waiting and hoping to one day connect with the Migos so you can play them this record, right?
Right.
And whether you're somebody that has no connection to them, or you have, somewhat of a connection to them or whatever, you're holding on to that beat. And, there's got to be millions of songs, rest in peace, that are sitting in producers' laptops and computers that never seen the light of day, because they were waiting for that magic moment to connect with that artist or that big name artist to get that beat. And they're looking back like, damn, that would have been dope if so-and-so did this beat 3 years ago when I made it for them, right? Or somebody else puts out a record that sounds just like it, and now they're pissed off because they froze and didn't put it out, and they could have put that record out. And what I mean by that is, instead of worrying about just getting to that guy with this one beat, why don't you find other killer artists, which is plenty of them on the internet,
right? Find
other artists and give them your beat. Now what's going to happen is that rapper is going to be grateful that you gave him a beat. Then he's going to put that record out. That's like a calling card for you and your production. Because if the beat is hot, people will be like, who did the beat though? You know what I'm saying? Plus, you can have that record to put that record out as well too, with a rapper on it, showcasing your beats. So like, it makes no sense. And there's an example I use on my book. It's like, someone says like, oh, I'm not going to pull out the Rolls Royce until I get invited to this billionaire mansion party. Well, you pulling out that Rolls Royce is the reason why you got invited to that billionaire mansion party. So if you're waiting to get the invite to pull out your best shit, then you may never get to that party. So if you're a producer or you're an artist and you're like trying to make this like strategic plan and wait for this like special moment in life to drop your record, and no, just fucking create dope, put it out, create dope, put it out, create dope, put it out. I have a whole chapter in my book, which I know we'll talk about, but it's called the dirt pile strategy. And what I mean by that is being consistent with your content. And the example I give is, if you throw a little dirt on the ground, people are going to walk over it, outside, not on your white rug in your house. But if you're outside, you throw some dirt on the ground, you walk over, you throw a little bit more, you don't even notice it. You throw some more, you still might not see it. Throw a little bit more, now maybe you kicked a little dust. You're like, what was that? You throw a little bit more, now you stepped on it. You're like, what did I just step on? You put more, and inevitably you trip over it. And that's like what it is with your content. If you keep putting shit out, eventually people are going to trip over it. And the people that you're trying to get to it's not that big of a community, man. Like if you're dope, like, and one A&R hears it, or one manager, or one artist, or one producer bigger than you that's like, yo, come do this record with me, or let me jump on that record, I can get it to Young Thug. Like, do that shit. But that guy will never hear about you if you're not putting shit out.
Right. Exactly. One thing you said a little bit ago that I also want to circle back to, which I think a lot of people have a hard time doing, I know I had a hard time doing it, is not taking no for an answer. What's the situation in your career where you explicitly were told no, where you kind of just kept pushing through and ended up successful?
So many times. But the one piece of advice I will give to people that may listen to this or hear that theory, I just got hit with it yesterday on DM, like, yo, you looking for artists? I'm like, oh, not right now, da-da-da. It's like, well, I'm this, and that. He sends a long thing. And I'm just like, all right, cool, man. Best of luck, man. Hopefully I see you at the top, da-da-da. And then he just keeps going. He goes, I won't take no for an answer. And I'm like, at this point, you're aggravating somebody. You know what I'm saying? So like, now the only answer you're going to get is no.
Mhm.
I would have remembered you a couple months from now if when you hit me and gave me this whole spiel and you caught my attention enough to respond, right? So now you should have just said, is it cool if I send you records when I drop them? And I would have said, yeah, send them over. And then after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos or records, I may be in a position where I do want to help you. Or I may hear something that's so fire, I want to put it on my radio station, or I send it to an A&R I know. Or, this kid hit me like a few months ago. I didn't pay much attention, but he's been sending me records. This shit is hot. You should check this out. You know what I mean? It's a lead. So I just wanted to give that lesson for someone that when I say what I'm about to say, that, like, well, I know you said you didn't take no for an answer, so I'm hitting you on DM telling you I ain't going to take no, right? So it's not like I didn't take no for an answer and then became a nuisance to somebody. When somebody said no, I figured out how to get them to say yes. And by figuring out how to get someone to say yes isn't to keep like trying to knock down a brick wall with snowballs, like just coming at them with the same thing over and over and over again. Like inevitably they'll be like, yo, this dude's fucking driving me crazy. Don't let him come. You know what I mean? So now like you have to understand the psychology around it all, right? So I'll give you my example. One of them is when I was young and I was first starting out and I was trying to get on the big college radio station, Emerson, WERS 88.9 back in Boston when I was young was the place to hear hip hop in Boston because the major stations didn't play it, right? So I would go up there and bring my music to the DJs. And, the DJs at college are just like me and you. You know what I mean? It's like walking into the studio and like, they pop on the mic and start talking. So I'd wait for them outside and I'd be like, hey man, this is who I am. Check out this record. So every week I'd bring them a record. Nah, I ain't feeling that. How about this one? Nah, I ain't feeling it. Nope. Yo, here's another one. Nah. Yo, I'm not sure if like your music fits my show. All right, man. I'll try again. So now instead of, by the way, what 99% of artists would do is either try to like convince him to like it for some reason, like all of a sudden change his fucking taste to like your song because you're going to convince him, nah, bro, this is why it's hot. It's like, I still don't fucking like it. Right. Right. Or the other half would now say, man, fuck Jordan. He didn't play my records. You know what I mean? Or fuck Sam. He's hating on my shit. Right. And that's what they would do. And that's a fucking whack approach. And that's not a winning mentality. What I did is I just kept going back and making records. So then what I did is let me listen to his show more and see what gets him excited. What records he talks about that you can tell he really fucks with. So then like he'd be like, oh man, this is one of my favorite records this week. I was like, aha, now I know his taste. So then I went to the studio and I still kept it real what I wanted to make, but I would add an element or something that I know would now, pique his interest. So I went back, played a record. Finally, he was like, yo, this shit is hot, bro. You ever play this tonight? This is crazy, right? Got him. Now guess what that did? That now made a relationship with him because he fucks with me. So like after a couple of weeks, now the stuff that I liked and I wanted to play, all of a sudden he would play because now he fucks with me. So like one of the things that you need to take into consideration is like, focus on selling who you are before you're selling the product that you're selling. People buy into people. People buy into feelings. Like think about like how many times people say like, that's a Drake vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
He sold you a feeling. Do you know what I'm saying? He sold you a vibe. That so much so that when somebody else makes something sounding similar, they say, that sounds like a Drake vibe. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you can sell a feeling or you can sell like yourself, think how many artists that maybe you didn't really care about their music, but then you met them and they were a cool ass dude. Now all of a sudden you like their music more for some reason, right?
Yo, we were just talking about this on Clubhouse a couple days ago. And what we determined was we called it star quality. When people are in a room and they attract your attention so much, you become a fan of that person before you even hear any music. So by the time you hear the music, you want them to win. That's exactly.
Right.
I use Cardi B as an example because I watched Cardi B on reality television before I heard any of her music. So by the time that she came around with the music, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And obviously there was I looked at her with a green attitude because I already appreciated her star quality and I knew what that looked like. It's like literally, you know, tying to what we spoke about a couple of days ago on our Clubhouse panel.
Right. And, you know, here's a good analogy. You know, say you see a girl that you like and she's attractive to you, and you're like, man, she's hot, right? But then you meet her and she sucks, right? So it's kind of the same thing with music. You might send me a record and that record's hot, but you suck. Like, you're not a good dude. I don't want to hang out with you, right? So like when I meet with people, I don't even want to hear your music. I want to hear you, right? Like the artists I manage now, who I got our major publishing deal, a major record deal, we sat for 3 hours and I just talked to her about her. And then I was like, all right, cool. You're dope. If your music is half as dope as you are, then like, I want to work with you. And if it's not, we can always make the music better. It's hard to make a person better. Do you know what I'm saying? So when, you know, then I listened to our music and I was like, yo, how did I find you? Like, this is crazy. Like, your music is even just as dope as you. So, you know, it's something to take in consideration. I can't tell you throughout my career how many shitheads have been in the music business and had like 1 hit or maybe 2 hits and then fell off. And I'll tell you why they fell off, because they're assholes. You know what I mean? And like, it happens all the time, whether they're dicks to the label or they start feeling themselves or they're not, you know, reciprocating the love to the audience and taking them for granted, or the people that worked hard at the label, or even their own team, or they start like showing up late for meetings and interviews and just like blowing shit off and coming up late to shows and like showing up late to the studio and then just bringing fucking girls there and smoking and eating for 4 hours on my dime before they start cutting a record. It's just like, yo, like, you got to run, you're a business. If you're a rapper, a DJ, a producer, a singer, a dancer, A&R manager, whatever you are, you're a fucking business, right? So conduct yourself as such, just like you're a Fortune 500 company. In the same way you would want people to respect and do shit good for you, the same way you want people to kiss your ass, do the same thing back to other people. And it's not a bad thing to kiss people's asses. Like, I'm nice. I love you guys. Like, even before we got on here, what did I do? I thank you guys like for having me on here. And because I'm privileged and honored to be on your show. You know what I mean? Like, regardless if you had 10 listeners or 10 million listeners, the fact that you even cared enough to have me on your show and allow me to talk to people and share, like, I value that. And that's what I think a lot of people don't value. Like, I wake up every single day, and this is just who I am as a human. I literally look out my bedroom window at my 2 acres and my waterfalls and my koi pond and my swimming pool, my jacuzzi, and everything in my backyard. And I literally look, and by the way, I wasn't saying that as a subtle bar. I was saying that to get to my point, is that I look out there every day and I'm like, thank you. Because I was born in a fucking shit pile and I had to dig myself out of that. I was broke. We had roaches. We had floods. I was sexually molested for many years. I was bullied. I was beat up. Like, I was homeless at a point. And it's like, again, and I'm not also saying that either to get sympathy. I'm saying that like, everybody has fucking problems, man. Everybody goes through bullshit. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has things they got to deal with. Who cares about your fucking excuses? If you want to win, make those your excuses to win. Don't make them for the excuses why you can't do something. Like, I could have easily been like, yo, that DJ's hating on me, and just ran around town talking shit about that DJ because he didn't play my records. I probably wouldn't fucking be here today.
Damn.
Right.
Bars. We need just a moment of silence, because that's I really appreciate all that. And I think too, I mean, I think it's like it's that energy, and it almost ties back to the other, like what you mentioned in the beginning too, just the confidence, create dope, put it out, be unapologetically yourself. Let that confidence shine through. I mean, obviously there's a lot of different like intangibles and other kind of like nuances to the approach, but I think
I get scared to
that
stay.
Raw power that we just felt right there, I think is honestly a major factor at the core of the success.
Well, I get scared to say things like, just believe in yourself and don't take no and go, because most people do not have self-awareness, right? Or emotional intelligence, or, you know, they don't have these things, you know, intuition on, okay, I said enough. You know what I mean? Or like, or even like, it's kind of the theory, when you have the whole room laughing, leave. You know what I mean? It's like, stop trying to outdo the best joke that you already did and the whole room's on the floor laughing, because it's only downhill from there. Do you know what I'm saying? So leave on a high note. Leave on a high note. Even when I first started as a rapper and a dancer and a performer, like I've opened for Usher and Busta Rhymes and Missy and all these when I was a kid. And it's like, I knew that this audience wouldn't know who I was and wouldn't care. So I had to make the shortest, most concise, killer fucking show that people would be like, man, I don't know who that opening act was, but damn, they might have been doper than fucking Busta. You know what I mean? And like, people don't do that. Like, especially rappers, they just walk around and they think, they watch what other people do that are successful and they think, oh, let me just go on stage with a bunch of my boys, hold my dick. You don't even know which dude's the rapper because we all fucking look the same. And I got 17 hype guys and I didn't really put much into my show. I just showed up, had my DJ play the record and I rapped over my record. You know what I mean? That's just one example of like really taking pride in your job and your business. And you're a businessman. And like, that's what, you know, just like Jay-Z said, man, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. And it's like, you are. And the faster you realize this, the better you'll conduct yourself. And don't act like you know more than you do know. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know this. Can you give me the answer? To ask questions. That's another thing is I think a lot of people, especially in hip hop, like, here's what I realize. When they don't understand something, they're just like, nah, B, I ain't into it. And it's like, you just passed up on a life-changing fucking opportunity because you weren't smart enough to say, I don't understand this. Can you explain it or elaborate to me more? I watched people miss so many opportunities and they would rather go get the $10,000 bag to show up at a club than to go get the $500,000, you know, personal equity investment in doing this work for this company that's on the rise. And if you did a little bit of due diligence and listened, in a year, you'd make 100 times more than what you would have made to go into that club. You know, that's getting into a whole nother thing about understanding business and investing and stuff. But like, the point being is just know that you're a business and you're a brand and conduct yourself accordingly.
Yeah, no, I love that. In that realm though, I mean, you did kind of allude, and I think it's interesting because you've been at the forefront and are working with a handful of other businesses, some that are tangentially related to music, but some that might at face value not seem as if they're necessarily music businesses per se. So when you think about that, like what has kind of drawn you to the different ventures? And as you even kind of bring up that example for artists, like how are you going about evaluating and manifesting different opportunities outside of just the core traditional like music, like masters and music model?
So I'll tell you where, because I didn't always know that. So when I was a kid and I got offered to be an opening act for a boy band to go on tour. So, and I was like, man, I'm a hip hop dude, man. Like, why would I go? That's a waste of my time. Why would I do that? So they had 2 shows in Massachusetts where I lived. And they're like, can you come do these 2 shows? So I was like, man, I'll just do these 2 shows, whatever. When I went and did that show, those 2 shows, you would have thought I was a Backstreet Boy because it was like girls would like fucking wanted to pay to buy my sweaty sock. Right. So that it opened up my eyes like, oh shit, I'm hip hop. And if I go to these things, I'm bringing hip hop to these things. So that was that. So then I'd make mixtapes and I'd be giving out hip hop mixtapes to people that otherwise wouldn't be listening to hip hop. Right. And then my big realization that opened the doors to, holy shit, I can really build other businesses that go in line with what matters to me, which is hip hop and music, is when I became a host on E! News with Ryan Seacrest and those guys. I remember I got the call and they were like, hey man, would you want to be on our network from Ben Lyons? Would you want to be on our network and like talk music? And I was like, huh, what do you mean? He's like, you know, like how I talk about movies, but you'd come on and talk about music. And I was like, E, like Britney Spears, Paris Hilton E? And because at the time, like that's all it was, right? So he was like, yeah, man, it would be cool. And I was like, sure, I'll try it. But in my mind, I'm thinking, that's so not in line with me being like, you know, a cracking mixtape DJ, a radio DJ. At this point, I'm literally on tour with Diddy as his DJ. And I'm like, it makes no sense, right? So I went out there and I did it. And then I realized, yo, I can literally be the conduit from the streets to Hollywood. So like prior to me, like there was never a Little John and a Pharrell and a Quelly and like Clips and all these people like on E until I got there. So then when I'm out there, I become kind of like the new cool kid in school, right? So when I'm out there, now I'm DJing parties out there and I'm DJing way different than they're used to because I got a very in-your-face East Coast on the mic style. So when I go in the club there, it was like, they were like, holy shit, what is this? So I kind of became everybody's favorite DJ out here. Like all the celebrities that mattered would come to the parties. So then I started realizing, this is when I really had a big realization. I'm like, I know 50 Cent, and I know that he would think it's fucking cool to hang out with Paris Hilton. I now know Paris Hilton, and I know that she thinks it's dangerously cool to hang out with a 50 Cent. But none of them know that about each other, and none of them know how to get in contact with each other because this is pre, social media. So I'm the bridge to all of these people. So I start connecting everybody and putting Fall Out Boy with Ludacris, and then I end up, I'm at E, and it's like way too long of a story. I'm trying to figure out how to make it short. So then when I'm on E, I'm like, dude, why are you guys running around chasing people at parties to run on your network? Why don't we launch our own party where you have a global platform to promote your party, where it becomes a destination party for people around the world that go to Vegas just to go to the E party? You know what I mean? Where we can now get our own content and invite celebrities. So at the time, the chairman of it was Comcast at the time before it became NBC Universal, he was like, "That's a great idea, Clinton. How do we do that?" And I was like, "Give me a week." So I got in touch with through Sal Masekela. I got in touch with the president of the Hard Rock in Vegas. We pitched him the idea, and I created the first ever hip hop party residency in Las Vegas in 2008, and it lasted for 3 years, and it was sold out every single Saturday night. And I would do things like bring everybody from like Neo to Tommy Lee to Paris Hilton's birthday party with Akon, and then like Lady Gaga's first performance. But then I'm playing Dipset, and like, you know what I'm saying? So it was like kind of the first real culture collision party on a global scale. I was the first DJ to have resident like billboards and on the sides of taxis in Las Vegas. So, that's, to answer your question, that's what made me realize the power of my hip hop and how I can bring that. So everything I do, whether it even gaming now or whatever I'm doing, I'm always bringing hip hop into it. So my whole career, I've been helping to amplify and expand hip hop's tentacles to be touching and being in other places that maybe if it wasn't for me, maybe it wouldn't have got there or wouldn't have got there as fast. You know what I mean? So like, there's like some of the biggest celebrities, like even like the Diddy's and stuff like that in the world. Like I played big roles in like, yo, you should do this. Yo, we should do this. Or telling networks like, you should cover this. And like, really kind of pulling everybody together, like making everybody pay attention to what everybody else is doing and pulling together, all these cultures.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that. And it's really crazy too, just how much consumer culture is driven by music culture, and right. A lot of the things that are kind of emerging within music culture. I mean,
think about what would life be without music? Like, what would a wedding be? A birthday be? A graduation be? Like any celebration? Like, without music, you know what I mean? Like, music is life, and like now, hip hop is the biggest music genre that's ever owned this market share ever, even bigger than pop has ever owned. Hip hop owns more market share now in the history of music.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And I love too how you kind of just spoke around how these various brands could strategically create cool cultural moments that benefit both sides. In that same vein, kind of going back to something we spoke about earlier in the episode, this notion of like underpriced attention, right? And kind of seeing where things are going and how there's unique opportunities to maybe be there, like skate to where the puck is going, be there a little bit ahead of everybody else before it's too saturated, before it's too competitive. I know you're doing a lot of awesome work with Faze Clan, and I think that kind of esports and gaming are obviously having a serious moment right now. And I'm very interested from your perspective, where you see the intersection or the continued convergence of kind of music and gaming, and what opportunities there might be for musicians to tap into that world.
Oh, tons. I mean, we're just scratching the surface, and it's already an industry that's, I think, made $180 billion in 2020. The gaming industry generates more revenue than the music and movie industries combined. So I think there's plenty of things that will, merge these two worlds together. I mean, I've been in the gaming industry professionally for almost 4 years now, starting with Faze Clan. And I brought from the first week I was there, I realized how this could be connected to music and how music is already connected to gaming. But, I like to say that music and gaming have been in a relationship for, well over 20 years, but just never committed. Right. And, I brought all the biggest artists into gaming as investors, from Offset to Sway Lee, Pitbull, Yo Gotti, DJ Paul, Ray J, Troy Carter. Like, I'm the one that brought them all into this space as investors. And I've talked to everybody else in between, from, Swizz, Fat Joe, Snoop, everybody, and trying to get them familiar with the growth trajectory of this industry. So, I did it over at Faze, which deemed to be super successful. I took that company from zero to a $300 million valuated company. And then I resigned last July and started my own, as you can see in the back, XSET. Get familiar, rep the set. So we started the fastest growing esports and gaming lifestyle brand in the world. And, we just signed Sway Lee. There's a bunch of other big, huge announcements that we're going to be coming in the next 6 to 8 weeks that will literally put us in the forefront of hip hop. We'll be hip hop's gaming team with these relationships and these announcements that we're going to be making. And that's all, again, goes back to earlier when we were talking about, doing the right thing and doing good by people, which then allows you to build a really powerful network that if you have the skill, how to effectively use that network to mutually benefit both parties. And that's what I've always done when I see opportunities, whether it's for Rick Ross or 2 Chainz or, T.I., whoever it is, then I'm like, I call them and I'm like, right. And by the way, you can't just call somebody with an idea or for an investment. You have to understand these people and what they need and what they want and what's going on in their life. One of the examples I give is like when you're looking for, say you're looking for someone to date or be with, right? Most people look at like things attributes that are attractive to them, whether it's looks, it's smarts, it's sense of humor, it's they got a good job, like whatever it is. You're always conscious about like, are they good for me? Do they have the things that I want them to have that'll make me happy? I rarely hear people ever do it backwards and say, am I the right thing for them? Right? Like, do I fulfill all the buckets that they have for something that they're looking for? So, that's used for in all types of relationships, even your personal relationship. But in relation to what I'm just saying, if I'm not going to go to a Rick Ross and be like, yo, bro, I got this incredible idea, you should invest, without like knowing where he was, where he is, where he's trying to go, what he's a part of right now, why he's not a part of certain things. Like, so then, when I go to him and say, yo, here's something you should get involved with, I'm going there with a whole rollout of why. What are all the benefits? How can this help your current objectives? What ancillary businesses can you build within this that I can help you? What are some things that if you connecting with this, you can then connect to some of the things that you're doing that can help amplify those? How does this help your music career? How does this help diversify your portfolio in connection to other things that you have going on? And that's my job, to do the due diligence of the other things that he has going on, right? So that's how I approach things. And that's how I move forward with bringing music and gaming together, or anything with music. That's the approach that I take.
Word. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the through line between most of the stuff that you're saying on this episode in particular is always identify what the value exchange is in relationships or in situations, and try to solidify that with whoever you're speaking to. I mean, you kind of mentioned it when you spoke on you trying to be on the radio and you figuring out what the radio presenter wanted. You just spoke about it just now with going to Rick Ross with an idea of, investing in something. Right. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. And even I get a lot of DMs. I wish I could answer all of them about, how to very specific things about their careers or lives, or large scale things. But what I try to do, and partially the reason why Sam and I have this podcast, is that we're fervent networkers, and we love meeting people and hearing their story. Yep. And we also thought of a way of how to exchange value with whoever we want to network with, because inviting somebody to a coffee is way less of a value exchange than inviting them to a podcast, hearing their story, and being able to put them on a platform. 100%. So I guess like the through line that I want people to get, especially from this episode, is as early as you can identify that value exchange, and then go after it.
I have a quote in my book, which we should probably plug it again. How to Win Big in the Music Business.
That's actually the before you actually continue out. The last question that we were going to ask is, what do you feel are some of the most underrated or least recognized concepts you included in the book?
Well, there's a quote in my book. Well, there's a bunch, but I mean, the whole thing is super dope. Like look how small it is. It just gets to the point.
Right.
It gets to the facts. This is everything that you need to know to have the right mentality on how to win big. This doesn't tell you how to upload your song to Spotify. It tells you like how to network, how to build your audience, like all of the important, I'll get into that. But one of the things I wanted to say was a part of my book, I say, if you feel accomplished or triumphant, or you feel like a winner because you're able to convince somebody to do something or invest in something that doesn't have tremendous value for them, that doesn't make you a great salesman. It makes you a con man.
Right.
And that's, one of the things that, kind of one of the principles I live by my whole life. And it kind of goes back to the Rick Ross thing. I was just saying, like, what's in it for him? Well, I'm going to tell you all of these things that's in it for you, because I care enough about you and your business and your agenda and your objectives, so that when I come to you, which is why people listen to me, because when I come in, I'm able to put their guard down by saying, is this a problem? Is this one? I basically get in their head and tell them how they're thinking. And when they realize, like, oh shit, this dude knows exactly like what I'm thinking about or what I care about or what's going on, of course you're going to listen to that person. They already get you without you having to tell them. Do you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Some of the important things in this book that I think a lot of people suffer from, one in particular is famous doesn't make you great, but great can make you famous. And I think too many people are worrying about the overnight success, because the internet lies, man. It pumps you with this, this fake vision of overnight success. Let me show you how to make $1 million in a week. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not real. And then you got all these people out here that just want to flex, and they just want to like wear bootleg clothes or flash Lambos and have 1 million fake followers just to look famous. And it's like you're focusing on the wrong thing, man. Like if you think of the greatest people that have ever done it through the history of time, like Sam talked about, go where the puck is, like a great like Wayne Gretzky or somebody like, Beyonce or Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson. None of these people were focused on being famous. They were all focused on being fucking great at what they loved doing. And then by being great at what they loved doing, not doing it just because it was cool or it was a quick way to make money, maybe they did it because they were passionate about it. They became famous because they were great. So just like I talk about in the book, famous doesn't make you great, but great can make you famous. Another important chapter is the only thing worse than having no goals is having too many goals. And that's another thing. I can't tell you how many times I run into somebody and they tell me, 9 different things that they're doing. I'm like, yo, I'm a rapper, but then I also do this, and I got this going on, and I sell streams and packages, and I got a cannabis company, and I'm working on a clothing line, and I'm da-da-da. It's like, I don't even know who the fuck you are or what I'm supposed to be a fan of. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then so because they're trying to do too many things and do the most because they feel like they got to be doing so much to look like an entrepreneur or look like a boss or a killer. And it's like, yo, just be killer at this one thing. And then everything can spawn from that. But when you're around here trying to act like you're doing all these things, I can't, man, it's so frustrating. And then you go to their bio and then there's just a clusterfuck of what the fuck all over their bio. Like, you're like, what are you? Like, why, I'm out. Like, why would I follow this dude? I don't even know. So I think that's an important thing for young people coming up too, is to be very specific of who you are, what you are, why I should be a fan of you, and what you have to offer. That goes for the music business and any business. But like, yeah, literally 99% of the people that maybe I'll see their song or I'll hear it somewhere or I'll see a video suggested or my son plays something and I go and check them out. And it's like, man, I don't even, you're whack. Your business is whack. It goes back to realizing that you're a business and you're doing your business. You're running your business wrong. But I mean, I can keep going on, but I don't want to just read the whole book to you.
No, it's all good. We'll make sure it's plugged in the intro and outro as well. Well, man, we just want to appreciate you for coming on to the podcast. Sam and I were having trouble which questions to ask because we had so many questions.
It's funny. I have so many answers. When I was writing this book could have been 10 times thicker. The hardest part of writing this book was distilling it down to just kind of like bang, 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 bang. You know what I mean? Because every time I start writing, I'm thinking, all right, 10 different people are going to read it 10 different ways. So I have to address how each person's going to perceive what I meant by saying that. And I started going down that rabbit hole. Like, now you may be thinking when I say this, blah, 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 or perhaps you're thinking this. And I'm like, I can't do that. I had to just be very right down the middle. And one last thing I'll say too, that's in here that I think is an important thing for people to do is a chapter in here called Mastering Art. And what that stands for is automatic resourceful thinking. And when there's a problem, a lot of people get hung up on the problem instead of just immediately thinking, what is the resolution? And another thing too is I think is anybody local that watches this show, like a local artist or somebody like where they feel like they're not near things that are popping, they don't have access to industry executives or good clubs or good DJs or this and that. It's like there is more resources around you than you even know. And you have to learn how to master art, automatic resourceful thinking. It could be the guy that works at the corner store's son, lives in LA, and his roommate is this producer. It could be your mom's friend she went to high school with, knows this guy that, you got to think past just like, oh man, I got to get in touch with these popular people on the internet. Like there's a bunch of people around you that you're not taking in consideration, whether it's a promoter for a club, right? Guess who that promoter for a club is going to know? He's going to know booking agents. He's going to know DJs. He's going to know artists and their managers he has booked in the past. So become cool with people like that. And there's a lot more resources than you know or that you're even considering that are right next to you, but you must master art.
Awesome. And just like that, I think we'll end on that note. Want to thank you for coming out virtually. Hopefully we get to meet in person.
I brought my own audience.
Yeah, hit that. Yeah, hit that. Get familiar one more time too. Yeah. People hear that.
Good.
Yeah, there you go.
Get familiar.
All right.
Awesome, man.
Hey, before I bounce, my book's available for free. winbiginmusic.com. winbiginmusic.com. Get the book for free. Yeah, man. That's it. Just go to Winbig or at Clinton Sparks on all socials. At Clinton Sparks on all socials. I could go on for 2 more hours, guys.
Yeah, we could too, man. We could too. All right, man. Thank you. You have a good one.
Oh, thank you, man. Shout out to everybody that tunes in and gets familiar with this podcast, man. They're giving you guys a lot of games, so don't take it for granted.
Appreciate that, brother.
Yep.
Peace. Good. Get familiar. No, damn. That episode was fire, though, man. Jokes aside, man, you could just feel that success energy, that big boom 2021.
Felt like Gary Vee or something.
Yeah, like coupled with just like potent tactical like wisdom and approaches that have helped enable his success across industries. So I think really loved it. Loved diving into the notion of underpriced attention, seeing where these kind of where attention is forming across different, like from a consumer's perspective. Now it's obviously happening a lot on the esports side. He was super early on when it came to even himself kind of in this podcast realm, if you will. Like I think when we think about underpriced attention, like right now it's really interesting to see what's happening with like organic content on TikTok as a creator and how viral you can go there right now, or even like Clubhouse being even a little more kind of underpriced, and how much like I've seen people that have amassed followings of hundreds of thousands of followers on Clubhouse that spills over into other socials. So but Clinton, hats off. Definitely encourage you guys to check out his book. I think tons of gems in this week's episode. So very curious to hear what you guys thought as well. So don't hesitate to hit us up on Music Business Podcast on Instagram. What'd you think, Jordan?
Yeah, man, I think it was super awesome. I think the hardest part about this interview is that I wanted it to be longer. Like you said at the end of it, we could have spoken for 2 to 3 hours. And I think we could have done that easy. He's got a lot of insight in a lot of different areas in the music industry. We get into the big nuggets that people can learn from, but I think people will really be able to take some more from his book, and should check out his book, How to Win Big in the Music Business, which is available at winbiginmusic.com. So definitely shout out to him, and looking forward to coming across him again and crossing paths with him in the music industry again. So
no doubt. All right, until next week, y'all, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much. We out.